Hey nerds, we are going to do a review and breakdown of The Penguin Episode 5, starting now. Welcome to the Nerd Social. I am Colin. This episode is titled Homecoming and is written by Breannah Gibson and Shaye Ogbonna and directed by Helen Shaver. It premiered tonight on Max at 9 p.m. Eastern, so this is coming out right after the show, and the spoiler-free logline is Sofia strives to build a new legacy while Oz desperately tries to turn the tables. So my spoiler-free thoughts on this episode is that the plot gets very juicy. There's a lot going on in this episode. There are 3 deaths plus a fake-out death, and the protagonists are all strategizing on what to do next in the aftermath of the last episode, which was also very good. One of the deaths was expected, one made sense, the other one was very shocking. The fake out was actually very interesting, and you'll get to see why that is in the spoiler part of this review. And all of them were pretty brutal. They're definitely pulling no punches here, and they're definitely using the TVMA to its fullest extent. And we've seen it also throughout the previous episodes, dropping the F-bombs. One particular scene in this episode reminded me of something coming out of the video game Grand Theft Auto. When I watched it, I was like, oh yeah, that's pretty much like that. The people that are closest to Oz are also very caught up in this episode, and Oz is trying very hard to protect the people that he loves and he cares about. And we've seen that type of love and affection for several characters from previous episodes. Overall, in terms of rating, I would give this a 10 out of 10, which is a theater rental. There's definitely a lot of shocking deaths that are here, and also the fact that there's a lot of brutality. Sofia and Oz are making the moves. They're almost like chess pieces on a board to force a final confrontation between the two, because as we've seen, Sofia is not very happy with Oz at this point in time. There's going to be a lot happening later on in the last few episodes to get to this epic conclusion. Now, we don't really know in terms of how this show is going to carry over to the next Batman. We've seen that in the past, in terms of TV show carrying over to movies, has been a mixed bag in general. I think that a lot of that comes from Marvel, because we really haven't seen that translate pretty well. So hopefully DC Studios is able to have a better translation between TV series and movies. And I think that will make it a very worthwhile endeavor to rewatch this, but also have better anticipation for the next Batman movie. Those are my spoiler-free thoughts. Please like, share, subscribe for more content like this. And we really appreciate your support on this as we are growing as a channel, and we are trying to get to a sizable number of subscribers as well as followers on Facebook by the end of the year. So without further ado, spoilers ahead. Let's just check out the scene here where the car is now exploded. It's a really nice car, actually, and the car it has to be lit on fire because we don't want to leave any evidence. Vic wanted to come back to rescue Oz from his predicament in the last episode, and Oz reaffirms his affection for Vic and also his faith in him as well, because he lost his faith in the last 2 episodes, getting back into Oz's good graces here. We also see the aftermath of what happened when Sofia poisoned all of her family members. All of them are dead except for Johnny Vitti from the last episode. The chief of police comes in to ascertain what's going on with Sofia, but also with the family. Of course, Sofia was pretty much stonewalling him, avoiding questions from him, and giving as little as possible. She mentioned about the affair that Tina, which is Luca's wife, and Johnny had, to throw a bone to the police chief. But of course, the police chief doesn't buy it. And of course, the police has a very bad reputation in terms of corruption. So Sofia was able to exploit that to escape suspicion from the police. And we also see that Gia, who is Carla's daughter, is taken away by family services. We don't know the extent of what's going to happen with her in the future. Here we see that Oz is trying to rally his troops to say that the Falcons did nothing for them, even though his henchmen were glued to the television to see what was going on with the coverage of the Falcons' deaths. He said, to hell with them. It's really not that big a deal. While this is happening, he has captured Taj Maroney, who is the son of Sal Maroney. And basically, before this scene, we saw that Taj was bragging about his family ties on TikTok. And so it was almost a way for Oz to try to bring him down a notch by capturing him and to make sure that there's a proper order in terms of the criminal enterprise, so to say. After that scene, we see that Sofia is in the crypt of the Falcone family. Audience now finds out where the location of Johnny V is, who is gagged. Johnny reveals also the truth behind Sofia's mother. And because of what happened with Sofia in the last episode, she initially said that he was lying. She thinks that he was manipulating her. But upon deeper thought and some more intimate details about how she is Johnny's cousin, but also the fact that her mother wanted to leave Carmine during that time before she was hanged. And we have a suspicion that Carmine actually killed Isabella here. But again, Sofia, with that knowledge, pretty much is able to put two and two together that the whole family's messed up and that she has this plan coming up that was pretty much justified in her mind to kill all of her family members, but trying to have a hostile takeover of the family enterprise. We also see here a picture of Oz's mother. Oz's mother is, again, suffering from dementia. We saw that from the other episodes. And Oz really wanted to make sure that Vic is able to take care of her because Oz is feeling that Sofia is coming after him for all the things that he's done against her. And sensing that it won't be safe for his mom to stay where she is. So he has Vic send for her, and Vic was able to take her to a safer location, which we will find out as Crown Point later on. We also see that Taj is captured again by Oz and his henchmen, and it forces Sal and Nadia to come out of the woodwork and to negotiate a exchange between Oz and Nadia. And Nadia was able to bring a henchman and have a exchange of psychedelic mushrooms and Taj. However, sensing that there was going to be some type of double cross, Oz has an ace up his sleeve as we find out that Taj was drenched in gasoline, and when the rest of the henchmen were starting to fire at him and trying to kill him, Oz then opened up a lighter and lit Taj on fire, which again subsequently lit Nadia on fire as well. So again, the brutality of this episode and of this series is just jarring to some, and it brings out the ruthlessness of Oz and also the ruthlessness of Sofia, and these two opposing forces is going to come after each other at the end, which is going to be a very good setup to the ending of this miniseries. We see here that Oz and one of his henchmen then drives off with the truck full of the psychedelic mushrooms, escaping the Maroney facility. They subsequently find out that the mushrooms were destroyed because there was some gas that was leaking from the pipes above, and turns out that it destroyed the mushrooms. Fortunately for Oz, that there were two barrels that were closed full of the mushrooms, and he's trying to figure out how to keep those mushrooms alive to have them sold to the general public. We get to see Julian making a move on Sofia. Possibly, we speculate that he's going to be one of her underbosses, and it sets up a pretty good segue into that realm for him. And we know that Julian's pretty shady as well, not only for his love for Sofia, but also having been in Arkham Hospital doing very corrupt things, it fits in nicely with his persona during this time. Sofia finds out her mother's fur coat had the name Gigante in it, and that gives her the inspiration to declare the end of the Falcone family and the beginning of the Gigante family. And during this time, she shockingly kills Johnny as Johnny's being very insubordinate, and then basically shoots him in the face, and he dies. She then brings out a bag of Carmine's money, and to her new henchman, professes that this is going to be an equal opportunity enterprise where you're going to get paid for what you do equally. So, of course, all the henchmen were very enthusiastic about that there is a new boss in town. Now, whether or not she's going to live up to the henchmen's expectations, we shall see, or whether she just becomes a ruthless crime boss herself. Here we see that Oz gets into an argument with Eve, and Eve does not go with Oz, and it seems as though there was definitely a difference of the relationship expectations between the two. Oz was thinking of more not just of a business, but a pleasurable relationship. But Eve was thinking of it more as strictly transactional and business-like, which led Oz to feel betrayed by Eve and him throwing a tantrum throughout the apartment and then leaving the apartment. We then see Sofia goes to a cabin, probably in the outskirts of Gotham City, and finds that Sal is there. Sal has escaped an assassination attempt earlier during the time in which his wife and his son was burning to death. He was able to escape by killing the guard that was there. And then early we saw that Oz was giving some money or some compensation to the guard to hire him to kill Sal. But Sal is still alive, even though he got stabbed in the stomach multiple times. It seems as though he is on the mend. And Sofia and Sal are working to an alliance where both families are going to go after Oz for hurting them both. We then see here that Vic is at Crown Point. Oz told him that he did good. And then as Oz is rummaging through the apartment, he then opens up a loose coin jar that reveals a trolley code token, and Oz comes up with an idea of what to do with the trolley token. And this, the outside of the trolley terminal entrance is still guarded by a dog. They basically just ignore the dog and then goes into the tunnel and finds out that this would be a very good base of operations to grow the psychedelic mushrooms. And because it's a deep, dark, and humid place, it's definitely a very good space for them to do that type of work. And that's where the episode ends. This is pretty much a setup to a final confrontation between Sal, Sofia, and Oz, but also Oz trying to consolidate everything to become the new crime boss. So we probably know what's going to happen because this show is called The Penguin, but at the same time, it's very riveting television to see how he becomes who he becomes in the future. And then hopefully a very worthy adversary to Batman in subsequent movies or what other shows that might be out there in the DC Studios universe. So that is my thoughts on The Penguin episode 5. Tell us what you had to say about this episode and about The Penguin overall, because it's getting rave reviews online. Please comment down below, like, share, subscribe for more content like this, and we will see you in the next video. All right, take care, everybody.